Well, several parts in Indonesia experienced the increase of temperature daylight or daytime rather and heavy rain at nighttime due to the seasonal transitions. The Meteorology, Climatology and Geophysics Agency or BMKG has called on members of the public to stay alert on hydrometeorological disasters such as floods, landslides and fallen trees. And to learn more about the weather transitions and hydrometeorological disaster threats, I will be speaking live via Zoom now to Siswanto, the head of Subdivision of Climate Information and Air Quality Productions. Good afternoon, Mr. Siswanto. Thank you very much for joining us here on Focus Today on TVR iWorld.
Good evening, presenters.
Right,
Here in Bali, it already come to the evening.
Right, that is the central region of Indonesia. Mr. Siswanto, my first question to you, how can we define exactly the hydrometeorological disasters? What sort of categorize that can be put into this hydrometeorological disaster?
Yeah, so hydrometeorological disaster basically consists of the two terms, that is hydro and meteorology. Hydro means water and meteorology means atmosphere. It is related to weather and climate. So everything that impacted by the phenomena coming from the water in the surface, on the surface, and also by the weather or climate, then it's the so-called hydrometeorological disaster. So like wind gas, and then the high speed of wind, and then the puting beliung, twister,
right.
Flood, drought, forest fire, and then just what we had heard in coastal area in Jawa Tengah or in Central Java. It's also can be included in the hydrometeorological disaster part of the flood that happened in the coastal area.
Right. Mr. Siswanto, what sort of threats do these hydrometeorological disasters pose to the people?
Can you repeat?
What kind of threats do these hydrometeorological disasters pose to people?
Yeah, actually, if we read about the reportation from the DNBB, the Disaster Management Authority, they reported that most of the avalanches are caused by the hydrometeorological disaster. For example, like last year in 2021, the BNPB has reported that more than 700 people has passed away or dead regarding to the disaster, and then more than 7 million people has been evacuated, and 90% of that event are caused by the hydrometeorological disaster, whether it could be caused by the flood. Most of them are flooding. The most frequency of disaster are flooding, according to the BNPB report. And then the second one is a landslide. And the third one is puting beliung, that is caused by the twister or wind gust or high-speed wind.
Right. So, Mr. Siswanto, the current flooding that is hitting the northern coast of Java Island, is it categorized as a hydrometeorological disaster? And why does it hit a specific part of the island, particularly on the northern part?
Yeah. So, yes, exactly that ROB or coastal inundation is part of the flooding event. That is a spatial flood that happen usually in the coastal areas. It caused by could be by the variation of the tide or the storm surge. These storm surge usually are not frequent happening in Indonesia because we are far away from the cyclone. Usually when there were cyclones event, it also produced a storm, and it can make the level of the sea increase because of the cyclone activity, but it's very rare. And the typical coastal Indonesian are caused by the variation of the tide. So BMKG has released regarding the rock warning or coastal Indonesian warning, potential rock warning, just in the last, I think last week, for several places in the north coast of Java, especially because of the prediction that last week and several days ago, it was the highest maximum of the daily variation of the tide. So that even in coastal area of Central Java, not coast of Central Java, just typical type of rock that caused by the high tide season.
Right.
And not only that, but why then the north coast of Java are frequently hit by the rock? I think this also because of the environment change itself. We already know that some part in, for example, in Semarang, in Jepara, and also in Tegal, these places are reported having a problem with the ground sinking. That is the sinking of the surface of the ground because of the some factors.
Right. Mr. Siswanto, it seems that we are a little too familiar with the recurring or repeating disasters every single year, particularly when it comes to the peak of the rainy season. But please correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't we now at the transitional period from the rainy seasons towards the dry season, and yet we still see these kinds of disasters happening?
Yeah, actually, along the year, Indonesian regions, most of them are prone to the disaster. Like when we have rainy season, the peak of rainy season, usually we have a problem with the flooding in many areas because of some factors, not only the weather or climate, but also the environmental capacity. And the transition, for just like now, we are in the phase, especially in the Java Island to the eastern part of Nusa Tenggara, are now entering the dry season. Entering the dry season, meaning that, for example, in West Java or Central Java, most part of this area are in the transition period from wet season to dry season. Usually, we will have in this transition season are the highest temperature, higher temperature, and also, but we still have a higher moisture in the atmosphere, meaning that it can still make our atmosphere so labile, so the cloud can be developed, into a higher or greater height, and it can produce severe rainfall, but in short duration. So people should aware of because of that, and also some cases it's still some windy and high-speed wind produced from the cumulonimbus cloud are still happening in some part of the area. So this kind of typical transition season weather phenomena are still also we need to make people aware of that information, so people are encouraged to always update the information from the MKG.
Right. Mr. Siswanto, apart from the currently hit region in Central Java province, do we have the exact mappings of other areas across the countries that will have the same high risk or that are prone to hydrometeorological disasters as well?
Yeah. For example, like coastal Indonesia is just one of the hydrometeorology disaster. We have a forest fire. This is one of the hydrometeorological disaster as well, because of usually it's triggered by prolonged dry season or drought event, and then usually it's happening in the peak of dry season. And also during the wet season, we usually many locations in Indonesia are prone to the flooding event, and for this such kind of event, just like in the north coast of Java, like in Semarang, Tegal, and etc. It's also it could also happening in the south part of Java, but in the other season. For example, like in 2016, it's happening when the highest level of the sea surface come to the inland area in the south of Java. It also could happen in the west part of Sumatra. It also happened in Bali. So everywhere in the coastal area in Indonesia, usually are prone to this kind of disaster, coastal Indonesia.
Right. Mr. Siswanto, we are aware that you are currently in the island of the gods, Bali, and presumably for tomorrow's global platform of disaster risk reductions. So in relation to that particular large international gatherings under the UN, what can you tell us about our very own efforts to reduce risk of disasters in the country, in Indonesia, particularly for hydrometeorological disasters? Mr. Siswanto, are you still with me?
Yeah, exactly. These 2 days. Hello.
Yeah, please continue.
Sorry, my internet is unstable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually what have been discussed along these 2 days. So in preparation stage before GPDRR, the global platform for disaster risk reduction. So actually, the WMO, BMKG, and other institution of the globe has held a conference, the so-called multi-hazard early warning conference. And in this conference, we really also really immersed the emergency topic regarding the early warning and early action. How then the such body like BMKG, BNPB, BPPD can make important rule in the ruling early warning, but also we need also to prepare our society how to make good response in the early warning. That means that we need the early action.
Right.
That should be put in place in the society.
Right. So we truly hope that the deliverables from the conference is not only implemented or applicable for the government level, but also for the public or the level of the people to be able to further reduce the risk of disaster. We'll have to leave our conversation there. Head of Subdivisions of Climate, Information and Air Quality Productions, Mr. Siswanto, joining us from Bali. Thank you very much for your time and your insights.
You are very welcome.